Our first story takes us 30 miles north of Seattle to the community of Marysville. Marysville has transformed in the last 20 years from the Strawberry City, a sleepy town best known for being next to the Tulalip Casino, Reservation, the casino, and a large outlet mall. Today, it is very much a bedroom community for Seattle. It has swollen to 65,000 residents. It is a community that has always dealt with some degree of racial tension, but that racial tension has spilt over. There were a series of death threats that have been made by students and relatives of the students directly to Black and minority students in the school at Pilchuck High School in Marysville. And Marysville Pilchuck High School is no stranger to violence, the site of a mass shooting incident in 2014, and then a site of a mass brawl that required a very large police response and the school to be closed in 2018. There is outrage in the community because there has not been enough action taken. If anything, there is a sense among the Black community that they're trying just to sweep this under the rug. On Saturday, JJ Frank, one of the impacted parents whose daughter received direct death threats, held a press conference, and we were there with our cameras. I want to preface before we roll this first clip, there is sensitive language. We have beeped it out. Some people are going to find this very hard to watch. If you are a white ally, I would say this is incredibly important to watch. Jennifer, with that caveat, I'm going to roll the clip and then we can unpack it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm here in the capacity as of a father. So any of you parents out there, I hope that you can connect with me. We have to make a statement today that I'm hearing that these students that made these death threats said it was just a joke. When another student threatens another student's life and says that they want to kill him, that is not a joke. And when another student threatens another student's life, that threatens all of our children's lives. Let us not turn a blind eye because these were Black students and minority students that our lives are any less. Black lives do matter. In December of 2020, in a leadership class, they were in a breakout Zoom class, unsupervised. And they started talking about, we want to kill all Black people. They said, what about that sister, Gianna? They said, yeah, we want to kill that Gianna. This is in the police report. You can get it with the public disclosure request. It's in the report. They said that they wanted to kill my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter. I want to kill that nigger Gianna. And you're going to try to tell me that's a joke? The prosecuting attorney's office said, we did not press charges because the family did not want to, and we did a diversion plan with these two students that were having this conversation about killing Black people and killing and killing my daughter, Gianna. With all in light of what's happening in our nation, we cannot take a death threat as a joke. Why is it so hard for the Marysville School District to understand our pain? That's why we are demanding the resignation of Jason Thomas, Lori Knudsen, and Rod Merrill and the consortium consultants. We're demanding that. You have failed at your most important responsibility, to keep the classroom safe and to protect the learning environment.
Jennifer, we blurred that Snapchat image because we would probably get knocked off the air, ironically, if we showed it for sharing race, even though for sharing hate against race, even though we're trying to shine a flashlight on it. And Jennifer, as you know, as our audience knows, you see this stuff all over right wing media and in right
Yeah.
wing social, and it just gets a pass. But if you try to put a flashlight on it, anybody that tries to put a flashlight on it gets the takedown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Man, could you imagine like having somebody make those kinds of threats against your child and then just have it swept under the rug like it doesn't even matter? There's a couple of things at play here. One, the failure to address like rampant racism and threats of violence against students of color, but also the clear limitations of remote schooling and education. Um, because Zoom rooms, like I teach college history, we don't do I don't do in-person lectures. My lectures are asynchronous, so I upload them, and so we don't have that problem. But I've been in spaces where I've had to organize and try to monitor multiple people across that platform, and there is like limitations to being able to do that. So that's one thing. But the first and foremost, the biggest thing is that they basically just let a group of teenagers basically get away with threatening to murder another child. So where are that child's rights?
And not only that, they felt comfortable enough doing it in a school setting in a Zoom meeting where this stuff is recorded, this stuff is shareable, this stuff. So if this is going on in that environment,
Yeah.
then what's the conversation around the kitchen table? And in this day and age, Jennifer, for the Marysville School District and the Snohomish County Prosecutor's Office to go, well, we did a threat assessment. They were light threat. You know, if it were indigenous students in Marysville saying
Yeah.
they were going to kill white students,
Yeah.
would they get the same hall pass? And we know the answer. And I use indigenous students as an example because there's a large indigenous population up in Marysville that goes into that school system.
Well, yeah, because it's right on the edge of the periphery of the lands belonging to the Tulalip Nation.
Right.
So yeah, I couldn't even imagine if that were the scenario. Like, my God, look at Wounded Knee back in the 1890s. That was the big fear, is that the Native people were engaged in the ghost dance to kill off white people. And look how that, panned out. But again, it's just that failure to address that systemic racism. If they were that comfortable having that conversation in that particular space, how many times have they had that conversation before and it's not been reported?
Yes, and the situation, everything you saw in that video is talking about what happened in December. We the end that shows that blurred out picture is from late January. And
Yeah.
there is another investigation. We have the story up on our website for that. The Snohomish County Sheriff's Department in that case has referred to Snohomish County prosecutors hate crime charges against the 20-year-old who is currently not identified who sent that picture. The story, Jennifer, is because it was sent from the same phone and the same email address as one of the students in the December Zoom call. And that 16-year-old student said, I didn't do it. My 20-year-old relative grabbed my phone and they did it as a joke. That relative is the child, an adult child, but the child of a Marysville police officer.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to a couple of things, like white men of a particular age are, statistically the most likely to commit violent crimes. You have a minor, a BIPOC minor, being threatened by a member of this demographic that is statistically most likely to commit a violent crime, making repeated threats. How are you expected to feel safe sending your child back to school in person? Now, especially since this person has gotten at least acknowledged or gotten in what they might perceive to be a little bit of trouble, there's no knowing if there's not some kind of vendetta there. I mean, so why would you feel comfortable sending your child back to school? I wouldn't. My
And
daughter,
there were over 100 parents and students that were there on Saturday. There was a very large presence, especially when you consider Marysville, the size of the community.
yeah.
We had an opportunity to speak with JJ Frank one-on-one after the press conference. I'm going to go ahead and roll that clip. What's led up to this press conference?
Our family has been at this for 3 years, really being at the table, trying to co-create solutions and strategies. I think where it escalated to another level is when you talk about death threats of your children, we have to take death threats seriously and hold students accountable. And when we were lied to in terms of what the action was done with these students, that is unacceptable. And so that's why we decided that enough is enough and that we need to take this public.
What action do you want taken by the school district and the community?
If Jason Thompson, who's on administrative leave, and Lori Knutson, the acting deputy superintendent, Rod Merrill, and the consortium consultants do not resign, we are asking Vanessa Edwards, the school board president, and the board of directors to use their authority to terminate their employment immediately. This leadership must end, and enough is enough.
Tell us about the threat assessment process that they went through.
There is a lot of still questions around the Marysville School District's compliance in the second level death threat. We have to really make sure that you're transparent to the families who have experienced the trauma and racism and the death threats, and we still do not even know who all the members of that team are on that threat assessment team. On that threat assessment, there's supposed to be a mental health officer. There is no excuse that this student did not get a mental evaluation or mental counseling, and then we sent this student down the road to Marysville Getchell, and that was unacceptable. They are not protecting the classroom, they're not protecting the learning environment, and that's why this leadership team must go. Our families have been grieving. Our pain and suffering has just been all relived when you can't get a district to look at us as human beings, to look at us with empathy and compassion. We are the families who have been victimized. Why do I have to have a press release and a press conference for the school district to hear? I believe that the Marysville Tulalip communities are going to speak out and stand out against racism, and we will not rest until we get justice.
I really do hope that they speak out against racism, Jennifer. I went up to the Marysville School District website. They have a declaration up there on diversity and discrimination. And at least for right now, they're not living up to the standards that they have on their website. I will add, we did reach out to the school district. We reached out to the sheriff. But it was a holiday weekend, and like basically every other media organization, nobody heard back. Marysville did do a press release. Marysville Police has done a press release. And we will just continue to monitor this story to see if justice is served.
Yeah, I hope it is, because I can't imagine him wanting to send his daughter or any of those families that have been terrorized in that way and have their children's lives threatened and not taken seriously, how they would feel comfortable sending their children back to school. Because I know that's for some school districts, Seattle included, that's supposed to happen next week. And I'd be damned if I'd be sending my kid to school that way. Like, no way. And have to worry about her safety, like constantly while she's at school, and nobody taking those threats against her seriously. That's absolutely appalling and disgusting. And I'm sorry, those diversity statements that they put up on websites across public schools, K-12 in Seattle, are no different than, my ultra white, wealthy Laurelhurst neighbors that I happen to live on the periphery of the neighborhood, putting those, we welcome everybody sign here, so they feel like they're fitting in with the progressive shit. It's all just lip service.
I think the word is performative.
Yeah.
We'll continue to follow this story, and I think we're going to break for a little pause for the cause.
Okay.
Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. And I really can't stress enough that your generosity is what literally keeps the lights on here as I point around at the studio lights. We love our patrons. We thank you for your support. On a Venmo, $5 literally keeps our Adobe Spark account paid for a month. So even if you just have a few dollars to throw in the tip jar, those dollars go very, very far. You would actually be surprised